If any one of you think they have an unlucky life, then I promise you, I'm way more unluckier than you. Why? You'll find out eventually. You know how every now and then there's a moment that splits your life in two? Like pre-betrayal and post-betrayal? Yeah, for me, that moment came wrapped in a bow and buttercream frosting. It was my 21st birthday, the "you're an adult now" milestone. I'd been buzzing all day. Not because I was expecting a party, my family didn't exactly do celebrations with enthusiasm, but because I had a hunch. A hopeful, naive little hunch. College had always been part of the plan. I'd done my part, good grades, zero trouble, part-time jobs through high school. My parents had always said there was a fund, a college fund. I wasn't supposed to touch it until 21. That was the deal. So, when I came downstairs that evening to find the table decorated with a half-hearted attempt at festivity, a generic "Happy Birthday" banner drooping like it had depression, and a cake that still had the price sticker on the lid, I thought, all right, this is it. They're finally stepping up. College, here I come. Oh, sweet summer idiot. We ate in that weird, overly polite silence families do when someone's about to drop a bombshell but wants to ease into it with potatoes. My dad cleared his throat halfway through the second slice of cake. He was always strategic like that. Never during the first slice, when you might storm off. He gave me that smile, tight-lipped, managerial, the kind that says, "I'm about to do something awful, and I need you to not react like a human being. We wanted to talk to you about the college fund," he said. My heart jumped. I swear I heard a harp. Dumb, isn't it? My mum nodded. It's time we were honest with you. Spoiler. Honest in this context was a lot like setting fire to your dreams but doing it with love. My dad continued. We've decided to give the fund to your brother instead. I blinked. Wait, what? He's more capable, my mom said, cutting her chicken like she wasn't detonating my future. He got into a top-tier school. He has a vision. He's a better investment. A better investment. They said it like they were talking about stocks. Like I was a tanking penny share and my brother was Amazon circa 2012. Are you serious? I asked, hoping this was some new form of dark birthday humor. Maybe I was on one of those prank shows where they reveal the real gift afterward. Nope. Sweetheart, my mom said, putting on that gentle, condescending tone she reserved for waiters. And children who ask too many questions, you've always been steady. But your brother, he's exceptional. We have to support where it counts. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain was short-circuiting and laughter was the only sound it could produce. So you're just cutting me off? Don't be dramatic, my dad said, sipping his wine like he was auditioning for Worst Parent of the Year. You can still go to community college, or get a job. Not everything is about university. Oh, the irony. That very morning, they'd posted a Facebook status about how education is the foundation of success. They just didn't mean my education. I excused myself from the table. Politely, because apparently being betrayed doesn't exempt you from manners. I went to my room and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall like it owed me an explanation. Happy birthday, kid. You're 21 now, and officially not worth the ROI. Let's rewind a bit, just so you understand how we got here. I was the firstborn, classic responsible child. Never smoked, never skipped school, and once got grounded for turning in a group project alone because my teammates were lazy. My parents didn't say I love you often, but I assumed that was just their style. Tough love. Reserved affection. Immigrant parents who believed hugs were overrated and financial prudence was foreplay. My little brother? Oh, he was the one. If I got a B+, they asked why it wasn't an A. If he got a C, they framed it as a learning experience. He's creative, they'd say. He just learns differently. Which apparently means not doing homework and having expensive taste in sneakers. I didn't hate him. Not then. We fought like most siblings, but he was still my brother. We used to build blanket forts together and fight imaginary monsters. But somewhere around age 16, he realized he could fail upwards as long as he smiled and made a clever joke. And my parents, they ate it up like it was organic quinoa. By the time I was 21 and he was 18, the contrast was stark. I had a part-time job, a savings account, and a 5-year plan. He had a vape, a SoundCloud account, and a girlfriend who thought rent was a capitalist construct. But he got into a fancy university, mostly thanks to legacy admissions and an application essay my parents helped him write. That was enough. He was now the future, and me, I was safe. And in investment terms, safe means boring. Not worth the risk, not exciting, no flashy return. They didn't even try to sugarcoat it. My mom actually said, "You'll land on your feet. You always do. That's why we're not worried. Translation: you're competent enough that we can screw you over and you'll probably survive, so enjoy the scraps. That night, I didn't cry. I just detached, like someone unplugged my emotions to perform maintenance. I stared at my laptop for hours, deleting tabs of college applications one by one, closed my essay draft titled Why I Want to Study Mechanical Engineering, opened YouTube, watched a video titled How to Become an Electrician with No Experience, because if they were going to treat me like I was on my own, then screw it. I'd act like it. Let me tell you something about the pivot. It sounds like a buzzword, something a motivational speaker would slap on a PowerPoint slide next to a photo of a guy in a business suit holding a laptop, while hard work glows in neon lights. But when it's real, when you're staring down the barrel of your dreams imploding, a pivot feels less like a strategic move and more like clinging to a life raft after your family just threw you off the boat. So, I pivoted. Fast. It wasn't like I hadn't considered alternatives. My parents had always pushed the college or bust narrative, but deep down, I knew I wasn't the corporate type. Not the guy to work a 9-to-5 in some fluorescent-lit office, surrounded by spreadsheets and synergy meetings. I liked my hands to get dirty. I liked working on things that didn't talk back, so I started researching trades. Electricians were always in demand, and unlike the weird art degree my brother pursued, being an electrician had a clear, straightforward payoff. The training wasn't some multi-year grind. It was practical, attainable. You learned how to wire circuits, fix systems, troubleshoot problems. You got paid, and you got paid well, especially as the world became more reliant on tech and infrastructure. Enrolled in a local apprenticeship program. 4 years of training, half of which was spent working under a licensed electrician who clearly hated his life, and yet still had the decency to teach me everything he knew. The first year was tough. Real tough. I was tired, confused, and sometimes felt like I was just clinging to the idea that I could make something of myself, while my parents were pouring money into my brother's fancy liberal arts degree that was somehow supposed to lead to a bright future. But here's the thing about hard work. It's honest. You can't bullshit your way through an apprenticeship. Either you know how to wire a socket, or you don't. Either you understand the code, or you'll blow a circuit and cost someone a lot of money. Slowly, over time, I became good at it. Really good. I became a journeyman, and that meant a steady paycheck. More importantly, it meant freedom. I didn't need a fancy degree to make a decent living. The job was challenging, but it didn't require me to play the corporate game. I was my own boss, while my brother was still stuck in some lecture hall pretending he could justify 50K in student loans for a degree he'd never use. As the years passed, I built my reputation. Word got out that I was reliable, fast, and, most importantly, good at fixing problems. I wasn't just installing lighting or rewiring houses. I was solving real issues that required expertise. That's what separated the mediocre electricians from the great ones. The people who thought being an electrician was just about turning screws had no idea what it meant to truly understand the systems. That's where I excelled. I wasn't just doing a job. I was making an impact. One socket at a time. Meanwhile, my brother, well, let's just say that things weren't going as smoothly for him. His college fund, funded by me, wasn't yielding much in the way of financial stability. He was studying something vague, abstract, and completely detached from the real world. By the time I'd been an electrician for about 3 years, my brother had already racked up credit card debt that could buy a small car. His plans were as fragile as his bank account. We never really talked about it. He was always too busy on social media, sharing memes about how school was a scam, while my parents sent him more and more money to help with his art projects. He didn't seem to have a grasp on how much this was all costing. To him, everything was temporary. College was temporary. His student loans were temporary. His dependence on our parents, temporary. Eventually, he'd graduate, get a high-paying job, and everything would magically fix itself. Spoiler alert, it didn't. On the flip side, I was becoming good. I wasn't just pulling in steady money. I was getting creative with it. By year 4 of my apprenticeship, I was doing side jobs after hours, turning houses into well-oiled, energy-efficient machines. I knew exactly what needed to be fixed, how to do it in a cost-effective way, and how to make everything look easy while I did it. And that's when it started to feel like I was winning. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I bought my first car with cash, paid off my debt in record time, and started investing in myself. When my parents would call and ask how I was doing, they'd try to sugarcoat it. "How's everything?" Are you sure you don't want to go back to school? There's still time. It became almost comical. The way they tried to remind me of the path I had missed. But what they didn't get was that I wasn't just doing fine. I was doing better than fine. My life wasn't built on a shaky foundation of loans and dreams that could be crushed under the weight of economic reality. I had built something solid, something I could rely on. Meanwhile, my brother's life was spiraling. He was in and out of internships, living off ramen noodles and making reckless decisions. There were whispers about crypto investments which, let's face it, were just him chasing the latest get-rich-quick fad. I don't know when it happened, when it finally clicked that my brother wasn't going to make it. Maybe it was when he bought a car that he couldn't afford. Maybe it was when I overheard my parents talking about how they were going to help him get back on track. There was no getting back on track for him. There was only a mountain of debt and a series of bad choices that my parents kept subsidizing. It was all a toxic cycle. I couldn't escape it, and neither could they. It was funny at first. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't funny. But it could have been if my family's drama didn't feel so tragic. I had my life together. My hands were full of electrical tools, not drama. My bank account was steadily growing, and for the first time, I felt like I had control. But my brother? My brother was falling apart faster than an IKEA bookshelf without the right screws. The first sign came one evening when I got a phone call from my mom. It wasn't a regular check-in. It wasn't the, "Hey, how's work going?" or the "We were just thinking of you." No, it was different, more urgent, a little bit too desperate. "Hey, honey," she began, her voice wavering just a bit. My mom wasn't one for emotional vulnerability, so when she started with "hey," I knew something was off. "We need to talk about your brother." Now, usually when someone says that, they mean the usual stuff. His grades, his habits, the fact that he somehow managed to break 3 phones in the span of a semester. But no, this was a whole different animal. "He's really struggling," she continued. "Financially, his loans are, well, let's just say they're not manageable anymore. And he's had some bad luck with those investments he's made. Things are tight." Bad luck? I almost laughed. The guy was deliberately making bad decisions. It wasn't bad luck, it was bad choices. But I held my tongue. I didn't want to make this worse, even though everything in me was screaming. "I told you so." "But honey," my mom added, "he really needs your help. We're trying to help him out, but he's in over his head. We thought maybe, just maybe, you could help him, get back on track." My first thought? "Oh, I bet." "You do." But I wasn't dumb. I knew what this was. They didn't want me to help him. They needed me to rescue him. Let me break it down. The kid had spent the last couple of years living in a bubble, thinking life was some sort of whimsical ride where everything magically fell into place as long as he was authentic or living his truth. Meanwhile, he was swimming in credit card debt, overspending on clothes he didn't need, and refusing to acknowledge the fact that basic financial principles existed for a reason. And now? Now my parents were trying to pawn him off on me like I was some kind of financial wizard. "You've been doing so well," they said, as if I'd found the secret source to wealth that I was just hoarding in a vault somewhere. I took a deep breath. "I'm not in a position to help him," I said carefully, even though every fiber of my being was screaming. "You want me to fix this kid's mess? After everything you've done? Really? But honey, we're not asking you to pay his debts, just help him find a way out. We're so worried about him. He's our son." She paused, waiting for me to respond. I wasn't sure what was worse, the fact that they had the audacity to ask, or the fact that I could hear the desperation in her voice, the unmistakable sound of parents who knew they'd messed up and didn't know how to fix it. But I wasn't going to let myself be the safety net anymore. I wasn't going to sacrifice my peace of mind and hard-earned stability just because they'd made some questionable parenting decisions over the years. "I can't. Help him," I said firmly. "He's an adult. He needs to deal with his own problems." "But," my mom's voice faltered, "we know he made mistakes, but he's your brother. Don't you care about him?" I almost laughed at that. I mean, of course I cared about him. He was my brother. But caring about someone doesn't mean you enable them. It doesn't mean you bail them out every time they make a mess of their life. It doesn't mean you throw away your own hard work because someone else wants to get a free pass. "I'm not giving him a free ride, Mom," I said, trying to keep my tone calm, even though I could feel the heat rising in my chest. "I've worked hard for everything I have, and I'm not just going to throw that away to clean up his mess." I hung up soon after, the weight of the conversation settling on me like a ton of bricks. It felt like a weird, emotional tug-of-war. They were my parents. I wanted to help. But I couldn't. Because if I did, I'd be enabling everything that had gotten us here in the first place. But it didn't end there. No. 2 days later, my dad called. Same urgency, same pleading tone. Only now it was tinged with guilt. You? No, we've been thinking a lot about this, he said, his voice betraying a hint of regret. Maybe we were too hard on you. Maybe we should have been more supportive when you decided to go into the trades. I froze. It was the first time in, well, forever, that they'd admitted they might have gotten something wrong. It felt like they were finally realizing how unfair they'd been. But here's the kicker. The apology wasn't for me. It wasn't for the years of pressure, the years of trying to mold me into something I wasn't. No, it was for my brother. We've been trying to help him, my dad continued. But we just need a little more support from you. You're doing so well. You can show him how to handle things better. The implication was clear. They needed me to play the role of the savior. The good son who somehow didn't get derailed by the pressure. The son who wasn't the bad investment. But as much as I wanted to scream, "You're asking me to clean up your mess!" I didn't. I just said, "I'm not going to enable him." And then came the clincher. "He's your brother, don't you care?" My dad's voice cracked as he said it, and that's when I knew he was playing his emotional card. Yeah, I cared, but not enough to ruin my future. The next week felt like an emotional roller coaster I didn't want to be on. My parents' requests for help kept escalating, and it was clear that they weren't about to give up. Every time my phone rang, I knew exactly who was calling and why. It was never for a casual conversation, never for a, "Hey, how's it going?" It was always about my brother, his financial disasters, and their desperate attempt to get me involved in his mess. One evening, I got another call from my mom. I picked up the phone, already bracing myself for the emotional manipulation. I wasn't in the mood for it, but I had to listen. "Honey, can we talk?" she asked, her voice quiet and hesitant. Here we go again. "Mom, I've already told you. I'm not getting involved in his problems. He needs to take responsibility for his own life," I said, my patience wearing thin. I'd given them the same answer multiple times, but it felt like they were just hearing what they wanted to hear. They were so used to me being the reliable one, the one who had their life together, that they couldn't fathom me saying no. But she didn't let up. "But you're the only one who can help him. You know how to handle money. You've got everything figured out. He's just a mess, and we don't know what to do anymore." It was starting to feel like a broken record, one I couldn't escape. They kept framing this whole situation as though I was the last hope, the last chance for my brother to get back on track. And maybe that would have been fine if he hadn't already had every chance. The world wasn't here to coddle him, and neither was I. "Mom, I'm not going to be the one to clean up his mess. He made his choices," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You and Dad need to stop treating him like some helpless child. He's an adult now. It's time he took some responsibility." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment I thought maybe she'd heard me. Maybe this time she'd understand. But instead, I heard her voice crack, a slight desperation seeping through her words. "He's your brother. Honey, don't you care about him? We've done so much for you, we just want to help him, and you're the only one who can." This was the part that really got to me, the guilt trip. The way they would bring up all the things they'd done for me, the one who had it all figured out. I wasn't about to play the role anymore. "I'm not your backup plan," I said, each word punctuating the gravity of my decision. "I'm not going to be the one who picks up the pieces every time your son makes a mess. You've both enabled him for years, and now you want me to fix it. That's not happening." I could hear the disappointment in her voice, the realization that she wasn't going to get what she wanted from me this time. It was a bitter feeling, like she was losing something precious. But I wasn't her pawn, and I wasn't about to play along just because she wanted a happy ending. There was another silence, this time filled with a weight I couldn't escape. My mom didn't speak right away, and neither did I. We both knew this conversation was a turning point. It wasn't about my brother anymore. It was about me standing up for myself, for once. It was about not letting them use me as a tool to fix their mistakes. Then, my mom said something that stuck with me. It was soft, almost like she was trying to convince herself more than me. "He's your family, honey. Don't you care?" I thought about it for a moment, but I already knew the answer. I cared about him, yes, but I had spent my entire life cleaning up his messes, covering for him, taking the emotional weight of his failures. And I was done. I couldn't keep sacrificing my peace and stability for someone who wasn't even trying to help themselves. "I do care," I said, the words heavy. "But that doesn't mean I have to fix everything for him. You need to let him face the consequences of his actions. It's the only way he'll learn." There was a finality in my tone that I couldn't take back. I wasn't going to let guilt be the force that drove me to make a decision I didn't believe in. I hung up the phone, feeling exhausted, emotionally drained, but also, strangely, liberated. The next day, my dad called me. He didn't even try to pretend it was a casual chat. "We're really worried about your brother," he said. "He's in a bad place." "Yeah," I replied. "And he'll have to figure it out. He's a grown man. He can't keep relying on everyone else to bail him out." My dad was silent for a moment, as if weighing my words. Then he sighed. "I don't know what else to say. You're right. We've made a lot of mistakes." And that was it. For the first time, my parents admitted their role in my brother's failure. But it was too little, too late. They'd had their chances to help him, to teach him responsibility, and they'd squandered them. A few weeks passed, and life went on. But this time, something felt different. The air was a little heavier, the tension between my parents and me, unspoken but undeniably present. They had finally gotten the hint. They knew they wouldn't be getting any more help from me. But even though I had made my decision, the fallout was still looming. The cracks in our family were undeniable now, and nothing could fix them, not even apologies. But even so, something inside me felt relieved. I'd done what I needed to do. I'd drawn the line. For once, I wasn't just the responsible one. The one who was always expected to be the adult. I had chosen myself. I had finally put my own needs, my own future, above the endless cycle of fixing everyone else's problems. Yet, it wasn't without its consequences. One evening, I was sitting in my apartment, working on a side project, when I got a text from my brother. I had been avoiding him. He had never been one to face me directly when it came to responsibility. Instead, he liked to send these half-hearted texts, the kind that left me wondering if he was genuinely sorry or just trying to weasel his way into getting what he wanted. The message was simple. "Hey, can we talk?" Now, normally I would have ignored it, but for some reason, this time I felt a mix of curiosity and frustration. So, I called him back. "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "I know things have been rough between us," he started, sounding hesitant, like he wasn't sure how to word what was coming. "And I get it, you're upset. You don't think I'm trying, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I've messed up. And I guess I was hoping you might help me out. Just a little." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, but I didn't let it show. I had spent so long trying to protect him, trying to fix his mistakes. But I wasn't doing that anymore. I wasn't falling for the same tired act. "No," I said, the word coming out more sharply than I intended. "I'm not helping you." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then he sighed, a sound that echoed too loudly in my ears. I thought you might say that," he said, sounding defeated. "But I had to ask. I mean, you've got your life together now, and I'm just... well, I'm not." "I'm sorry, man," I replied, keeping my voice even. "But I can't keep picking up the pieces of your life. You have to own your mistakes, just like I had to own mine." I paused, the weight of the words settling over me. This wasn't just about money. It wasn't about rescuing him from a bad financial situation. It was about breaking the cycle, about standing my ground even when it hurt. "I'm not your backup plan anymore," I said, feeling the finality of it all. "You're going to have to figure this out on your own. I believe you can. But I'm not going to fix it for you." There was another long silence. I could almost hear the wheels turning in his head, trying to figure out if he could convince me, manipulate me into giving him a handout. But he didn't. Instead, he just said, "Okay, I get it. I messed up. I'll deal with it." And that was the last time I heard from him. In the months that followed, my parents reached out a few more times. It wasn't about me, though. It was about him. And each time I made it clear that my decision hadn't changed. I wasn't going to be his financial lifeline. I wasn't going to be the one to bail him out when he couldn't figure out how to manage his life. I remember one particular conversation with my mom where she asked if I had thought about it more, and if I could at least try to help him find a solution. I didn't even hesitate. "No," I said firmly. "I've thought about it, and the answer is still no. He needs to take responsibility. You and Dad can't keep enabling him." There was a heavy silence on the line, and for a moment I wondered if I had gone too far. Maybe I was being too harsh. But deep down, I knew this was the only way. If I kept bailing him out, I would never be able to walk away from the role they'd always placed me in. The responsible one, the one who had to fix everything. I couldn't carry that anymore. Eventually, I stopped hearing from them altogether. The calls grew less frequent. My parents were clearly disappointed in me, but they also knew I wasn't budging. They were forced to face the reality that they had failed my brother, and that they couldn't count on me to fix it for them. As for me, well, I kept moving forward. I kept working, kept building my life. The financial struggles my brother was facing didn't affect me anymore. I had built something for myself, and that was something I could hold on to. In the end, this wasn't just about money or responsibility. It was about setting boundaries, about realizing that just because you're family doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your own well-being to help someone else avoid the consequences of their actions. Sure, my parents apologized, and my brother admitted his mistakes. But the damage had already been done, and now they were the ones left picking up the pieces of a